Thank you for coming today, Premier. I really do appreciate it. It's great to have the task force here in Camperdown, highlighting the fact that the drought is really biting our residents here in the southwest. So it's great to be able to host the task force and actually see what is happening right here on the ground. So we had really great, robust discussions today, and it was fantastic to have all members around the table just to feel the impacts of what's happening locally right here in Camperdown. So thank you, Premier, for coming. Really do appreciate it. It was great to see you, and hopefully you've left a lasting impression here in Corangamite, and we wish you well, but can't wait to see you next week when we meet again, and we'll hopefully see you in the region again soon.
Thank you too, that way. Kate is also Kate's an important member of the Drought Task Force, and joined also by Agriculture Minister Ros Spence. Today was the first meeting of the Drought Task Force that I am chairing, that has a number of government ministers and community representatives on the Drought Task Force, and I announced the establishment of the Drought Task Force just last Friday.
Just getting back to that Drought Task Force, there's been some criticism that there's no agronomist on the task force, there's no nutritionist. That's criticism from UDV's being free. Does he have a point there? Does the task force have any major gaps in expertise?
Well, I believe the UDV is a member of the VFF, and Brett Hosking, as president of the VFF, is on the task force.
Although there's no agronomist or nutritionist on the task force, is there?
So the VFF is represented on the task force, as is a stock and station agent, and are other farmers on the task force. And in a desire to get a cross representation of leaders from across rural and regional Victoria, the VFF is a great source of that expert advice, and indeed the president of the VFF gave a very comprehensive report to the committee based on the advice from across his network within the VFF.
Right, so there's no gap in expertise on the task force?
I'm confident in the people sitting around the table with me.
There's also issues for some farmers, particularly in Moyne Shire, being allowed to take their stock onto the roadsides, to graze on the roadsides, because it takes 20 days to get approval. So can they fast track that? And second of all, they need to do studies, which is coming from the state and fed, to look at native vegetation. So that's preventing farmers looking up to their cattle on roadsides. So is there something being done about that?
These are the sort of issues that the task force provides an opportunity to be a bit of a clearinghouse for, to have these issues raised in one place, where we've not just got a whole range of leaders from across rural and regional Victoria. We've also got the relevant government department and agencies in the room as well. And their task, and they understand very well that this is their task, is to provide quick response and advice to government on issues exactly like this. So these are the sorts of issues that we will be both identifying and working through and providing a response to.
Is there also support for businesses as well? So retail in the southwest is starting to suffer. We're starting to see shops close down, and they're citing the drought because most of their customers are farmers and farmers' wives, and they're struggling to make a living. So we're seeing lots of stores close down. So is there any help for retail?
Again, this goes to the why the membership of the task force is made up of, yes, important farming and farming community representatives, but leaders from across rural and regional Victoria, because we know this from the experience from previous droughts, and as you say, it's being experienced right now. Droughts don't just affect farmers as badly as it does affect farmers and farming businesses, because of the way farmers and their communities are so interlinked, have such deep personal connections as well as business connections. And when I was talking with farmers earlier today, they went to exactly this, how what they do on farm supports so many other local businesses, part of the local supply chain. So this is something that the task force is considering, understanding that the effect of the drought hits the farmers, that it has such an impact on all communities. I was talking with farmers just this morning on a property close by, where it's the start of June and dust is coming up from the ground. Like, it is incredibly dry. So we'll continue to monitor conditions and make future decisions based on those conditions.
Just with the drought, it's a bit tone deaf that you announced that you're going to subsidise an AFL round of football for supporters to go to, and what's happening down here is what's happening down here. People are struggling to make a living, and and you're funding one of the biggest organisations in the country for a game of footy, and people down here are wondering what's going to happen to their future.
So we've already announced 3 separate drought packages for drought support now statewide, that is providing support statewide for farmers and regional communities. What, by establishing the Drought Task Force that I'm chairing, is a very clear signal that we know there is more work to do, and we will do that work, and that work will be directly informed by a range of representatives and leaders from across rural and regional communities and organisations. In terms of other activities that the government undertakes, we will always continue to support rural and regional communities. Whether it's investing in the upgrade at the Warrnambool Hospital, the new Maryborough Hospital that's open, the work that's going on at the Ballarat Hospitals, as just examples of what we're doing in health alone. We are spending this year and investing in this year's budget the most funding ever invested in upgrading our road network across the state. Last year's budget had the most funding ever for road maintenance. Well, we topped it this year with even more funding in recognition that we do need to invest more in our road network, a road network that has suffered badly because of the major flooding and storm events that many parts of our state experienced not that long ago. In terms of providing support for families to go to the footy, I'll continue to look at ways that we can provide cost of living support so families can enjoy a day out at the footy, because what that initiative might mean is that a family from the southwest will be able to get on the train, maybe use the regional fares, you know, the fares that are now capped at the regional level, and be able to go out and enjoy a day at the footy. And one of the things we talked about in the room today was that alongside addressing the real challenges and the real pressures and stresses that are on rural and regional communities right now, we also know there's a role for us to play in providing support for some activities that give country communities an opportunity to come together in a positive way. Support for sporting events and activities, support for kids in their schooling environment. That was also talked about because we know that when communities are doing it tough, they also want to see how they can be supported, have a little bit of relief, maybe even just for a footy match, to be able to go and take their mind off what is an ongoing challenge that's being experienced.
Thanks for that answer, and I think it just highlighted that you actually don't understand the issue because people can't afford to just drop it and go to Melbourne for the day.
Well, I know many country Victorians do prioritise going to the football and enjoying a day out with their family.
Are you going to meet with any of the CFA volunteers that are gathered outside today?
So I meet and listen regularly to local CFA volunteers across the state, and I thank them for their work. More and more is being asked of our emergency services and from our CFA volunteers. It's why we need to provide them with more support. It's also why, in recognition of the volunteering work that they do, that they will be not paying the levy as a result of the changes that we have introduced. Under the previous regime, they did. Under the new approach to the levy, they will not have to pay the levy as a result of being a volunteer of the CFA or SES.
Premier, the question was asked though, will you meet with the volunteers that are outside gathering out there at the moment?
I meet regularly with a range of volunteers and representatives of organisations, and that includes the CFA.
Will you meet those volunteers?
I meet regularly with a range of volunteers and members. I think it's important here. I think what's important here is I will meet with anyone who wants to have an engagement that's open, that's frank, that's respectful.
Here, and I think your car was sprayed by a CFA tanker today. Am I right on that? Might have been sprayed.
I don't have advice on that, but given it's a drought, that would not be the best use of water now, would it?
Right. Well, anyway, my advice is that your car was sprayed with water today by a CFA tanker. Okay. But do you get a real sensible, like a palpable sense of anger? Like, do you understand people are really angry?
Look, I understand keenly that there are many challenges that are being experienced in rural and regional Victoria right now. And because of a number of those challenges and because of those deteriorating conditions, we have recognised that one way to provide relief and support was to freeze the levy at existing rates for the coming 12 months. And we'll continue to monitor drought conditions. We'll continue to work with farming communities. We'll continue to listen to rural communities. But I say this very clearly, We'll continue to act.
How did you find the roads here in the southwest Victoria?
Look, as someone who travels on our road network every single day in rural and regional Victoria, I know firsthand, and I've seen it firsthand, the impact that we have seen. The floods, the repeated flooding events, the repeated weather events have had a big impact on our road network. That is why last year's budget had a significant investment in road maintenance funding.
Will you be catching up with any of the local Labor members while you're down here? And if not, why? And if not, have they been in regular contact with you to discuss concerns about what's happening down here with the drought?
I had the opportunity this morning with Upper House member Jacinta Allan to meet with local farmers to hear directly from them what is happening here in this local community, how they're both as their own farm business is responding, and also what more work and support we can provide.